Should you buy or skip the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro? I mean, they've added Pro to the name, so it's gotta be good this year, right? Well, this $349 Action 5 isn't as big of an upgrade as the Action 4 was to the 3, sticking with the same max 4K 120 or 1080p 240, but this year's model gets a slightly upgraded sensor offering 13.5 stops of dynamic range, and it now shoots 40 megapixel stills, as well as, and this is a big one, a more efficient processor for longer runtime. Not to mention, it now also has 48 gigabytes of internal storage, giving you about 80 minutes of 4K 60 frames per second video, as well as a few other upgrades, which we'll get into. The Action 5 is undercutting most of the competition, including the GoPro Hero 13 Black and the Insta360 Ace Pro by about $50. So here's everything you need to know before picking one up.
That's a little steep.
The first reason you should get the Osmo Action 5 Pro is that it uses a new 1950 milliamp battery, which also, as well as a more efficient 4nm image processor that gives it better battery life, actually the best battery life of any action camera, period. DJI now says you can get 4 hours of continuous recording, but that's at 1080p 30, which honestly I'm never touching because ew.
Disgusting!
4K is really nice, and I don't really need 4-hour-long clips, but it's there if you need it. That said, 4K 60, I get about 120 minutes outdoors, and when you drop that down to 4K 30, it'll extend by another 30 minutes. And so with a mix of shorter 2 to 5 minute long and a few 10 to 15 minute long clips, I was able to record all day without charging it up. And so if you want an action camera that lasts the longest on a single charge, the Action 5 is king. The DJI Action series has always stood out to me as the action camera to get because they prioritize video quality a lot more than the competition, in my opinion. You can quickly switch between multiple angles, from their extreme wide 9mm equivalent to 15mm with distortion correction and stabilization applied. You can also record in either 16:9 widescreen or 4:3 aspect ratio, which is helpful if you want to get both a widescreen and a vertical crop from the same video clip without shooting natively wide or vertical. But more importantly, you've got 3 color profiles to choose from: standard, HDR, HLG, and D-Log-M, the latter being what I almost entirely always shoot on. Because of its larger sensor, which we first saw on the Action 4, unlike most other action cameras, the Action 5 continues to be half decent in low light, especially when you shoot in that 10-bit D-Log-M profile and apply a little bit of noise reduction. Although its fixed depth of field won't trick you into thinking that this is a small pocket camera, and definitely not a DSLR, but it still offers incredible dynamic range and lots of room to color grade. And it also matches really well to DJI's other cameras like the Osmo Pocket 3, which, if you've seen any of my recent videos, you know I use quite a bit. The Osmo Action 5 Pro includes a front and rear color display, both with touch support. The square front display is pretty small, measuring just 1.5 inches diagonally, but it has 800 nits of brightness, so it's easy to see outdoors. You can get all your functions really easily. It's pretty good. But new for this year, they're packing an even larger rear display, which is now 2.5 inches diagonally. The screen's also very bright, up to 1000 nits, and it supports, again, those touch and swipe gestures as well. The screen is much better than the smaller and dimmer options that you'll see on the GoPro Hero 12 and even the Hero 13 Black cameras. And especially as a solo content creator, having these 2 really large, bright screens that you can easily switch between is great for reviewing your footage or just making sure your framing looks right. I think another strong point with the Osmo Action 5 is its connectivity. It has the one USB-C port, which is for charging and data transfer, and you can actually use this as a webcam when connected to a computer if you want. And even though this doesn't have a microphone port, you can either use a 3.5mm adapter to connect a wired mic if you'd like. But even cooler, just like with the Osmo Pocket 3, the Action 5 can directly connect to the DJI Wireless Mic 2 via Bluetooth, which for 90% of my audio, including making this video right here, is my go-to choice because of how easy and quick it is to set up, not to mention the audio quality is really good too. So just like with the picture modes, if you already own other DJI cameras, being in that ecosystem really pays off here because you can use that same hardware for a really awesome setup. And new for this year, the Action 5 also extends its waterproof rating by an extra 2 meters, now totaling 20 meters, without even having a diving case. But what's even better is they now have a built-in pressure gauge to record and display water depth, altitude, and other data in real time to give your footage more context and make it feel a little bit more dynamic. In my experience, 4K is plenty of resolution, especially for an action camera. That being said, those who like to maybe reframe and crop or digitally add movement to their footage a little bit more might find the extra resolution offered by rivals like the new GoPro Hero 13 Black or the Insta360 Ace Pro to be an omission here with the Action 5. It's worth noting that this would obviously take a hit to the battery life, not to mention result in larger file sizes, but yeah, I'm never gonna say no to more resolution if it doesn't sacrifice image quality, because sometimes it could be nice to have that little extra room for editing. Just like with the Action 4, I think the Action 5 Pro is incredibly reliable and does everything it does exceptionally well. That being said, it's been a few years since we've really seen anything dramatically innovative with this lineup. The one easy area that I think DJI should at least try to explore is offering similar GoPro style lens mods. The ability to add a macro, anamorphic, or extra wide angle lens to quickly change the look of your footage, or even just quickly swap on an ND filter for better control over your lighting, helps make that GoPro Hero 13 helps make the new GoPro Hero 13 more of an all-in-one camera that can adapt and help you be a little bit more creative with your shots. I wouldn't be surprised if DJI is working on something like this behind the scenes, but for now, the Osmo Action series hasn't introduced its own niche yet. So tied in with that last point, I think if you've already got an Action 4, you probably won't see a huge need to upgrade to the Action 5 Pro. With basically the same sensor, I don't think you're gonna see much of a difference in video quality. Maybe if you're taking a lot of photos with this, the new 40 megapixel sensor might be enticing, though I don't really think anyone's primarily buying one of these as a photo taking device. You're probably better off just investing in a small pocket camera. Now, the built-in storage, the bigger rear display, and the improved battery life are definitely great, but if you weren't concerned with them on the 4 and you thought it was good enough, I don't think this is reason enough to upgrade again. To that point, if you haven't bought either and you're trying to decide between the two, I think that's an interesting question. You can't really go wrong with either. I think the $249 price for last year's Action 4 is a great deal, while spending the extra $100 premium to get the Action 5 Pro might be also a great investment for a lot of creators if you're gonna be taking advantage of those new improvements, features. So buy or skip. The DJI Osmo Action 5 is the standout choice for creators like me who are already heavily invested in DJI's other camera gear. From matching the color profile to my other DJI cameras to pairing and using the mics between them, there's a lot of added value to an already very affordable and competitively priced action camera. And while I personally don't get to use these action cameras as much as I like anymore, when it comes to shooting action content, DJI continues to be my top choice just because of those aforementioned conveniences combined with its excellent video quality, even in low light. Not to mention, of course, its battery life will keep you rolling for hours long. It might not be the most exciting or fun action camera to use this year, but it maintains its notoriety for being reliable day in and day out. But let me know what you think. You can find us everywhere at Tom's Guide, and you can follow me to see what I'm reviewing next. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.